Page, Adonde, Gutierrez, Blackstone. What time is it? Football time. Football time. Also, the new helmet rule. Speaking of technical difficulty, Harbaugh just got a vote of confidence from his university president. And Jonah Hill is trying to change the jersey game. Let's go around the horn.
For some of those Nike. Are we sure that wasn't just an undershirt and he took off his actual shirt?
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reali.
Eagles, Falcons, T-minus 3 hours. Who you got, Woody Page?
Eagles.
Jay.
Eagles.
Israel.
Falcons.
Stone.
Birds.
Okay, that gets you a mute. From the Eagles side, Foles to start the season. It's crazy that his Super Bowl MVP starting the season is a story, but that's where we are. Wentz is going to come back whenever he's healthy, I guess. Woody Page, I'll start with you. You've got the Eagles. We talked about them yesterday a little bit. They're 8th best odds to win the title this year. Are they being overlooked or even disrespected?
Well, I'll use another word, under-respected. They're not being totally disrespected, but when you got teams like the Texans, and I know that Deshaun's coming back, but they're more favored to win the Super Bowl than the Eagles. You've got a team here that's got 16 starters that will be in the lineup tonight from last year. Their entire secondary is back. Their offensive line is intact. Oh, you say, well, Nick Foles is replacing Wentz. He did that last year and only lost one game after he came into the starting lineup. So it's not as if this team has lost a lot of firepower or a quarterback is replacing somebody who was an MVP and didn't do the job. I just think that people are paying no attention to them. You really think the Giants, the Cowboys, and Washington's going to be better teams and displace them?
Under-respected is the word Woody coined. How about you, Adonde?
Under-respected. I can go with that word. Look, it's not just that they did it without Carson Wentz throughout the second half of the season last year and through the playoffs. They did it without their starting left tackle, without a starting linebacker. Those guys are injured. Now they're back as well. So this is a more formidable team than we saw really on the field for them in the second half of last season once Wentz gets back in the lineup as well. The problem for them is it's a much more challenging field out there in the NFC. There's a number of good teams out there. You like the Rams and Falcons are going to be a challenge starting with tonight. So it's going to be difficult, especially with them playing the tougher schedule this year.
So you think the NFC got better. How about you, Israel Gutierrez?
Yeah, I think the NFC got better, but frankly, I think maybe the Eagles did too, especially if they get a healthy Carson Wentz back. Look, I don't think it's disrespectful because their odds to winning the Super Bowl are what they are, because repeating as Super Bowl champions is just that difficult to do. We don't know what's going to happen, but history tells us something bad is going to happen to this team. Something's going to keep them from winning another Super Bowl. But if you're just looking at the talent on this squad, I mean, just the defensive line. Think about how good they were against the rush last year. They have that defensive line and added Michael Bennett. There were 7 guys on the defensive line that played 400 snaps or more, the most in the NFL. So if they can keep those scores low and just really defend well, then the Nick Foles, Carson Wentz situation is going to take care of itself. They have a great situation at quarterback.
Kevin Blackstone.
But you know what? People look at preseason and we overanalyze and dissect, and we saw an Eagles offense that wasn't performing very well. Nick Foles and Carson Wentz's stead did not look very good. People maybe have forgotten that Frank, it was a comeback. Reich left to become a head coach and is no longer running that offense up there. They also lost their quarterback coach as well. So they had some losses from people who are handing out the plays up there on offense, and they're going to have to wait a while for Alshon Jeffrey to come back as well. So this is a team that has a few question marks, and that's probably what people are looking at right now. But I agree with everybody else. When you step back and look and you see Michael Bennett's there, Jason Peters is back, healthy, this team probably has more talent now than it did before.
Yeah, and that's why you picked the Birds tonight. Another mute for Blackstone. We'll talk about the other side of the ball, though. Let's talk about the Falcons here. They were close to winning the Super Bowl, of course, 2 years ago, and they were close last year to beating the Eagles in the playoff game, except for that last-second play that was not exactly optimal. Israel, outlook for the year, and how open exactly is that Matt Ryan, Julio Jones window?
I mean, I still think they're one of the elite teams in the NFC, and I still think I would not be shocked if they made another Super Bowl run here. I still think that window, though, between Matt Ryan and Julio Jones has got a good 3 or 4 more years in it. If you look at Matt Ryan in his early 30s, and he's efficient, he plays every game. He's only missed a couple of games in his career. I think he's going to be there. And I think Julio Jones, when you get, a receiver in his late 20s, early 30s, it's going to be some sort of a gradual decline, but he's not falling off a cliff. As long as you have a solid running game, you got wide receiver Calvin Ridley, who they drafted this year. He's going to get more talent around him. I still think that combination has a few years left in it.
KB?
Yeah, I mean, I still like their offense. They weren't very good in the first half of last year, but they seem to pick it up in the second half. They've got Austin Hooper at tight end. He looks to have a breakout year. Calvin Ridley, who had 19 touchdowns in 3 seasons at Alabama, probably the best wide receiver they ever saw. He's in the mix as a third receiver. I like their offense. Even Tevin Coleman to back up Devontae Freeman in running back situations. So this is still a good team. The defense is still solid. I don't think it's quite ready to call this team off.
Okay. Did anybody else hear Blackstone call Calvin Ridley the best receiver Alabama's ever had? Right in the face of Julio Jones, who we're talking about here? Please, let him play an NFL game before you call him the best. Woody Page, how about you?
Yeah, in regard to the window, I think it's a bay window, Martha's Vineyard.
That's wonderful,
October. Yeah. It's wide open. I think that for years. Really, when you think about it, people are saying about the preseason, Devontae Freeman and Julio Jones didn't play one play. So they're well rested. They're ready to go.
Oh, yeah, they're well rested.
And I think that Jones, last year, only had 3 touchdown catches. Nobody's had 1,300 yards and only 3 touchdown passes. So I think that it's going to be a situation of Matt Ryan trying to find him more open and him working harder on that. Defensively, they're not bad. They're not one of the best teams in the NFC. We already talked about the Eagles and also the Rams, but I don't think that any kind of window here is closed on them. This is a team that was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they still got basically their crew intact. And Matt Ryan was the most expensive played quarterback in the league for about 20 minutes.
Adonde, how about you?
Exactly. The Falcons sure don't think that the window's closing anytime soon. I mean, they re-upped Matt Ryan for 5 years, $150 million. So more than our opinion is their opinion. Julio Jones is only 29 years old. Receivers age better than running backs. And speaking of running backs, they have pretty good pair of running backs that Kevin alluded to that can maybe take some of the pressure off Matt Ryan. The defense is young, and they will improve. And also, remember, last year is their first year with new offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian. You got to figure in year 2 that offense will run a little bit smoother as they adjust.
As long as they don't throw a pass to their fullback on 4th down with the no time left in the most important game of the season. I mean, yeah, they get the goal line, sure. One thing about tonight, I do want to talk about the new helmet rule and how it plays out. We saw what happened in the preseason, how bad it was the first couple of weeks, how it got slowly walked back. Growing pains tonight. How much are we talking, Kevin Blackstone?
Oh, it's going to be a big problem. I mean, this is going to take more than just a season to get right. This is going to take seasons to get it right. And so there'll be a lot of discussion about missed calls, made calls that shouldn't have been made. And we'll still be talking about concussion protocol out of it, too.
I'll put it this way. I think early on there will definitely be a lot of calls, just like in the preseason, maybe making the defender sort of adjust there. But I do think that at least once a week, there'll be a game with a controversy because of this rule, even through week 17.
So that would be very impactful then, Israel says. How about you, Adonde?
It won't be as bad as we saw in the preseason, but yes, we will see it, and I think it will be making a difference. One thing we haven't talked about is these helmets are so big now, it's almost inevitable that you're going to have helmet-to-helmet collisions because these giant helmets.
Okay, so are you going to make the argument to go back to the Leatherheads? That's what you're going to say? It's been said before on this show and elsewhere.
Bob Ryan's move.
Woody, last word?
I think they found their way, and I'm talking about the officials as we went on in the exhibition games. And it should be remembered that the NFL now has more than 30 full-time officials. I think they're going to spend a lot of time, and they'll be more aware of exactly how to interpret this rule. I don't think it's going to be as bad as the guys say.
All right, fine. We'll move on. One more thing from the NFL. Start of this show, and it is the Steelers turning on Le'Veon Bell. I mean, this has been 3 days straight we've been talking about the Le'Veon Bell issue. You don't see teammates often talk about one of their own, especially a guy like Bell, all-pro, a Pro Bowler, a lodestar, like they did. J.A., how do you read it all? What does Le'Veon do now? Do you think the Steelers might even try to trade him?
I'm looking in the broader perspective is how can they ever have labor unity from the NFL union or the players union if they can't even have unity within their own team in support of him trying to secure the best contract possible for him and knowing that they have a limited window, want to talk windows, the running back window is especially small, and yet they're not looking out for him when he's trying to look out for himself. You didn't see this type of acrimony among the Raiders, for example, when it cost them the services of Khalil Mack. He's not even on the team anymore. You saw them really questioning
so
management more than they're questioning. So let me stop you there then, Jay.
Is that something then about Le'Veon Bell personally?
It could be because, but it still shouldn't be about the person, though. It should be about the principle of players trying to extract as much money as they can from ownership.
You say that, but teammates are talking about the person here, Israel Gutierrez. What do you think when you hear teammates say that about Le'Veon Bell? What position is the team in right now?
I think they sound like fans. I think they sound like they think that Le'Veon Bell is doing this just to, save his legs or whatever, or get a few extra bucks. Like he has nothing to gain from sitting out. Therefore, he's, bleeping them, if you will. Look, he's got a contract. He had a contract offer that essentially only offered him $10 million guaranteed. It was an insult. And now he's trying to do what he can while he's in the prime of his career. This is going to be the last big contract he gets. They have to understand, even the offensive lineman who makes 7 times less what he does, have to understand what he's doing here. I think it's just not great for the team, and I don't think you can come back from this as a team because early on, if he does come back and plays blow up and things don't go well, there's going to be blame going left and right to each other. You're going to have question marks.
So you don't think the Steelers come back? Steelers are a Super Bowl pick. We talk about the odds. They're well ahead of the Eagles in the odds. They're second of all NFL teams. You think this is something that's going to tear them apart?
I think it can. I don't think necessarily it will, but I think it can, absolutely.
All right, KB, how about you?
I just don't understand why the players, to go back to what Jay Adonde was talking about, aren't pointing their fingers at management. I mean, this is the best player on the team. This is a guy who's been talked about as being a generational running back in this league. You can hand him the ball, you can throw him the ball, you can split him out as wide receiver if you want. He changes the dynamics of the football field. He's the guy that needs to get paid, and he deserves to get paid, particularly for his production at his position. 400 touches, and this guy still performed.
Okay.
The front office should be paying him.
Interesting. Well, but the tender is there. He's not signing it. Bell's the one not signing the franchise tender. You call him the best player in the team and generational, which may be true. They also have a generational wide receiver. They have a quarterback with Super Bowls who just said the offensive linemen are the most important people on the team. Woody Page, how about you?
I'm agreeing with what has been said here, but let me add a couple of points here. When the big three in Pittsburgh play together, they're 41-19 over the last 5 years or so. When they aren't together, they're 15-12, basically a 500-type team. So they really need him, and people say, well, he doesn't have leverage. He could show up before the 11th game and collect about $6 million. He's been well-rested. He'll be well-rested going into free agency with another team. They'll know he didn't use himself up this year. So I think he still has leverage, and I think the Steelers made a very tragic mistake by not saying, okay, we got you for 1 year. Let's take advantage of it. Let's offer you $18 million, and you can become a free agent.
Kevin, the last word after the horn.
Just don't forget that Emmitt Smith held out those 2 years back in '93, got his money. The team went 0-2 without him, and they turned around and went on a run. All right? Running backs like that are important, critical.
We've been Horn taking a break right here. We'll be back on the other side with By Herself. Do you know what his comp is for an NBA contract? Career earnings? Miles Plumlee.
James Johnson.
Le'Veon Bell is Miles Plumlee. Come on now.
To do that with baseball.
Around the Horn is brought to you by Gold Peak, the taste that brings you home.
I'm a squeaky toy, and I've got one job, getting chomped on by this little ankle sniffer. So pardon me for feeling inept compared to Geico, who does so much more. Like while I'm getting slobbered on, Geico is creating cool technology like their mobile app, which lets people pay their bills or file a claim. Plus, Geico is the fastest growing auto insurer for the last 10 years. Is it too much for me to ask for one more feature? Fast and friendly claim service like Geico, maybe? Oh, great. I'm getting buried again.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
I can't be mad at anything that happened. I bid on it, so it's all good. I think I learned my lesson.
That's Odell Beckham talking about his matchup with Jalen Ramsey this weekend. Woody, you've taken all the cheese before in your life. Buy or sell? What are you taking from that?
I'm selling what he said because I think he needs to prove it before we could actually say, oh, yeah, it's not happening anymore. His head has been gotten into several times before, and he's got to prove it to me, as someone once said on this show, that he's not doing it anymore.
Okay, Jay Adonde.
I'm buying this. The first step toward solving a problem is admitting you have a problem. And he admitted that he got played and got carried away by Josh Norman. So if he's recognizing that, I'm believing him when he says he's ready for it.
Thank you, Professor. That was very optimistic. First step to solving a problem is admitting you have one. Israel, how about you?
I'm buying it as well because I think he was in prove-it mode previously, before the big contract. Now you can look at him and say, in his mind, hey, I'm respected as the best wide receiver in the game. So he can go out there and carry himself as such and not worry about getting into it with the cornerback on the other side. He's going to look even better.
Kevin Blackistone?
Well, I'm going to sell it just because it seems to me that his biggest issue this season will be just playing the game of football and making it through the entire year and making people remember what a great talent he is at wide receiver rather than worrying about the shenanigans and histrionics that he has with certain cornerbacks in this league from game to game.
This is him right there saying he's not going to have any of those shenanigans.
Exactly. Good. Focus on the game.
First step for Israel and Kevin might be recognizing they might have a problem getting into the showdown. We'll move on. Buy or sell too. He's not in the hot seat. He's under contract 4 more years. That's Jim Harbaugh getting a vote of confidence from the university president at a meeting of the Detroit Economic Club. Jay, what are you buying? What are you selling from that?
I'm buying the Detroit Economic Club for my college football news, just like I'm buying Damian Lillard for my NBA media updates. But I'm also buying the patience right now. It's not even, we just passed the Labor Day weekend. The College Football Playoff Committee waits until October to weigh in with its opinion. Maybe everyone else should as well.
Israel, you agree with that?
I'm buying the patience for this year as well, but just this year. That wasn't the most encouraging words there from him. And so you're not on the hot seat. He's under contract. Like, they're talking in technicalities here. You're not saying he's doing a good job. So it sounds like, it's starting to wear a little thin over in Michigan.
KB?
Well, the only person on this panel who used to cover economics as a reporter. Let me tell you that this is some heady news coming out of this organization. And, of course, Harbaugh is on the hot seat. We know about the 9-9 record that he has right now. We know about the losses he's had to ranked teams on the road. We know about the fact that he hasn't beaten Ohio State but, once. He's got a lot of issues, and he's got to solve them quick.
And how about you, Woody Page?
I'm buying the next year when this economic club meets. They're going to have a new president from the school because he's the one on the hot seat. If he allows Harbaugh to go through another year and lose to Ohio State and Michigan State, he's not going to be there. The seat is going to get hot and hot. He'd be 1-7 at that point.
Buy or sell 3, 2 home runs and a 4-for-4 night and a stolen base. After they recommend Tommy John surgery for you, what are you buying? What are you selling from Shohei Ohtani, Israel?
Well, it's unfortunate that this just seems to be sort of a rite of passage, if you will, a growing pain of today's pitchers if they have to go through this surgery. So I'm buying that he gets it out of the way early. I'm also intrigued with the idea of him playing some DH next year, despite the fact that he can't pitch, because obviously he can swing with a torn ulnar collateral.
Okay, so you'd have him as a DH. There is talk, or at least consideration, maybe they would stick him in the outfield post-surgery as well. Blackistone, what do you think of that?
I'm selling everything, and I'm selling the fact that they obviously don't watch this show, and we told them last week what to do with Ohtani, and that was not to play him at all because there's absolutely no reason to do so. Well, so now they've done this, and now he's got more of an injury to get repaired.
From the pitcher perspective, but he did go 4-for-4 last night at the home runs. Paige, how about you?
Thank you, Kevin, for reminding everybody what we talked about here and all agreed on last week. They shouldn't have pitched him. But I'm buying sadness for Ohtani. He signed for $585,000. If he'd have stayed in Japan one more year, he probably would have gotten a $200 million contract. I hope he comes back. He is an entertaining player to watch. He is possibly going to be a great player as his career goes through in the United States.
Adonde.
If I'm the Angels, I'm selling season tickets at a discount for next season. I'm offering partial refunds to those who already renewed because you're not going to get half of the most exciting things about the Angels. You still get Mike Trout, but it feels like they were negligent in allowing this to go on and not addressing this sooner. And as Kevin said,
that may be true, but they're not going half price with their tickets. Good. Well, just answer this, though. If he has the surgery, can you still play him at DH?
You can.
Yes.
You can still swing that bat.
Israel seems certain about that. Kevin's on board with that.
I don't know what to do with Pujols, but you play.
All right, I'm getting a news alert here on my feed that the Detroit Economics Club says Gutierrez and Blackstone. It is my fiduciary responsibility to eliminate you. Paige, Rodonde, initial public offering and showdown next. That's the entirety of my good luck in showdown. 3 home runs in a 3-game sweep. But what was Trevor Story's most impressive? The fall down, the 505-footer, or how he menaged the trois? Woody Page?
Well, it's got to be the first one. I mean, when you go all Beltray on the people and fall down and still manage to put it 400 feet, the only thing would have been better if it cracked his back, too. But it landed right by Todd Helton's hamburger stand.
Exactly, Woody. When you fall down and still hit a home run, and you pair that with some of these golf long drives we've been seeing this week, where the guys are jumping off their feet and still hitting it 390 yards, it goes against everything we've been taught about swinging, right? You're supposed to keep your feet planted and pivot. No, I guess you can do whatever you want now. I want a refund on my golf swing lessons.
All right, this is not about you. And you don't pair it with golf. You pair it with a hamburger from Helton's hamburger stand, is what he told us. Showdown 2, Jonah Hill. Can you tuck in an NBA jersey with dress pants and dress boots? That's the question. J-pas or faux pas?
Blue faux pas, major faux pas, and the belt. You left out the belt, Tony. You don't wear a fancy belt with that. And a generic Suns jersey at that, you don't have a Charles Barkley or even a Penny Hardaway or someone who's wearing a Suns jersey?
Most of us have lived or spent a lot of time in New York City. That's typical of everybody. But you got to give him credit. He's lost a lot of weight, and now he wants to be able to tuck in his jersey. He couldn't do that from the age of 15 till now.
He wants to Wilbon it, I believe is what it's called. It's 1 to -1. Woody Page, take the FaceTime. Why not?
Yeah. Well, we're so happy that Todd Frazier admitted the immaculate deception when he went in and didn't catch a ball in the stands and came out with a rubber ball and the umpire called the batter out. In the 1930s, Cincinnati was the first city to have lights and play night games. And they had a left fielder who figured out a way to do tricks on the other team. When there was a home run hit because of the bad lights, he would go back and reach into his pocket and pull out a ball and show it to the umpires. And in the darkness, they would call the batter out. And so they won the first game there 2-1. It might have been because a home run was not called.
Make deadline that night, Woody?
Maybe. Who knows? Thanks for that, Woody. We'll see you tomorrow.